Hey guys, it's Sid here with SVTperformance.com, and we're here in a 2019 Ford Ranger. This is a Lariat edition, FX4, pretty much as loaded up as you can possibly get it. Crew cab. I've had a few days to spend a little bit of time in it. Took a little road trip. You guys may have seen on our Facebook page that we went to Indy for the PRI show. This is what we drove. So I thought maybe we would run down this dirt road here, check out the stabilization on the new GoPros, and give you guys my thoughts on this truck. So first thing I'm going to do, it's not really necessary, this road's not that bad, but I'm going to go ahead anyways and just drop it into four-wheel drive, turn on the rear locker, just because it's fun, it's there. That's part of the FX4 package, and it works really well. I've been down this road with this truck before. We're in I guess you'd call it just a nature preserve. So we're definitely not going to go off the trails or anything like that. You don't want to disturb any of the animals' habitats, or there's some endangered plant species here as well. You know, the Little Shop of Horrors Seymour plant, it grows in here, or at least what's based on the Venus flytrap, and those things are kind of endangered, and the DNR gets pretty serious about it if you run over those, so we'll not be doing that today. But basically, my thoughts on this truck are, it's sort of the tale of two trucks, tale of two vehicles. I have sort of a love-hate relationship with a lot of things about it. First, if anything, this truck gives me hope that the Bronco is going to be really good, because the Bronco is going to be sort of loosely based on the Ranger. It'll have a different rear suspension, things like that. And of course, it'll have a different suspension setup. But it's going to share a lot of the same architecture as this Ranger. And one thing that Ford absolutely knocked out of the park with this truck is the suspension. Now, I know you guys have probably seen some other reviews where people are complaining, oh, it's too harsh, it's this, it's that, and basically just crapping on it. But to me, this thing has the absolute best suspension of any non-Raptor Ford truck out there. It's firm, but it's not harsh. It reminds me a lot of like the Fiesta ST, which is a firm riding suspension and handles really well, but it's not overly harsh. With this one, you get that same dynamic, but it soaks up potholes well, it's good off-road, and it handles exceptionally well. I was really surprised by the level of grip when taking an on-ramp or something like that. This truck handles very, very well. It rides very well. The Ford engineers really tuned this suspension in nicely. Well, very, very well done. Gives me a lot of hope for the new Bronco, because I'm probably going to end up getting one. This is a nice preamble to it. On the downside, I was going to say the 2.3 liter EcoBoost. It's okay. And I say it's okay because it's sort of uninspiring in just standard drive mode. That's the way I drove it around for the first day, and I was not terribly impressed by it. It feels lazy, and I know this engine is capable of a lot. We had it in our 2.3 liter EcoBoost Project Mustang. It was a 2015 model, and we had an intake tuned exhaust, and with the Livernois race tune, it made 340 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque to the wheels. So these engines can put out some serious power, but it just feels like the tune's a little lazy in standard drive mode, like it always wants to get into high gear and try to get a little bit better fuel mileage. However, when you drop it back into sport mode, which is the S right behind the D on your shifter, and it's a little bit tough to actually get that in occasionally. You have to be driving and then pull back on the lever. You can't just go straight into sport mode from park. That's kind of a pain. I would prefer it to be just a button or something, but it works. And when you get it into sport mode, it firms up the shifts quite a bit. The engine becomes, the throttle response becomes more aggressive, and the big feature is it holds the gears a lot longer, so it gives you a lot more of that turbo torque throughout the RPM range, instead of just constantly trying to get into the next higher gear to get a little bit better fuel mileage. On the fuel mileage front, I'm not terribly impressed. Actually, I'm not impressed at all. our overall mileage driving this truck's been about 20 miles per gallon, and that includes driving from Myrtle Beach to Indianapolis and back. On Interstates 40 and 75 going through Tennessee and Kentucky, we've got a lot of mountainous terrain. And, you know, I'm not driving like a maniac, but I'm keeping up with traffic, and I'm seeing like 18, 19 miles per gallon on that stretch. And on dead level ground, just keeping up with traffic on the interstate, it's getting right around 22 miles per gallon. And to me, that's not great out of a turbo 4-cylinder. I think it should be a little bit better than that, especially considering that a 2.7 liter EcoBoost F150 matches that mileage or maybe gets even a little bit better. I think that's not great. An engine that would work really well in this truck, I believe, is the 3-liter Power Stroke diesel from the F150 Platinum that we tested, or might have been an F150 Limited. We tested a few months ago. I think with that engine in this truck, you would knock down a legit 30 miles per gallon, and that would be great. And it would be well matched to the size and the kind of the power you would look for in a vehicle this size. Speaking about size, the Ranger, the cabin feels a little bit cramped. It doesn't feel small by any means, but it's definitely far less space than like a full-size truck. I haven't spent a lot of time in Tacomas or Chevy Colorado or anything like that. I don't deal with off-brands. But this one, it just feels a hair smaller than my 2009 supercharged Explorer Sport that I had, or our Sport Track that we used to run around in. Both of those were V8s, of course, and on an older platform. But those both felt just a little bit larger, and I have a feeling it has to do with, if you look at a Ranger from the back, look at the way the cab tapers in towards the top, and I think the tapered in greenhouse makes it feel just a little bit more cramped than it actually is. There's plenty of room. I don't feel that it's tight or anything like that. So it's just something to note. But speaking of the size of it and everything, this thing, I believe, would make a pretty good daily driver because the turn-in is really, really tight, and it is a lot easier to live with on a daily basis than, say, an F-150. Especially, you know, we tested an F-150 Raptor a few months back, and that truck, just trying to find a parking space for it can be a challenge. This one, it's way, way friendlier around town, in traffic, things like that. Personally, I think it would just be a much better daily driver to live with than a full-size truck. And that's probably what Ford was going for with it. As far as the interior appointments and everything, it's nice. It's nothing that'll set the world on fire, but it has a nice leather-covered dash, or I guess that would be vinyl. It has a covered dash, and the seats and everything else are nice. But you get a lot of hard plastic materials pretty much everywhere. And a truck this price point, I think it should have a little bit nicer door panels, things like that. Especially around the switchgear, a lot of plasticky stuff. The seats, I am definitely not impressed by. They are probably some of the worst seats I've sit in a Ford. They are firm to the point they get uncomfortable after about an hour. And the trick about it is they're no more firm than our seats in our ST Fiesta, but they are not as supportive as the Fiesta ST, and for some reason they just make you feel more tired. I'm not sure why, but I really don't like these seats at all. One good redeeming feature about them, though, they have the best seat heaters I've ever felt in any Ford. These things will run you out. They get hot quick. Very impressed. Other creature comforts. It has the normal stuff we come to expect from a truck of this level. You've got power points, USB points everywhere, a nice 110 outlet in the back. It's got basically the kind of stuff you would expect from a nicely equipped Ford truck. I wish they had gone with a better dash than what's this one? Sorry. I wish Ford had gone with a better cluster than this one. It looks like something left over from the Ford Edge. Honestly, with the stuff they're putting in F-150, Super Duty, Mustang now, the full digital dashes, this truck should have gotten that. I understand it's probably just a retuned spec from what's available overseas, but to me, I think we've moved beyond just this style cluster. I think Ford can do better than that. Sync 3 works very well. The air conditioning, heat, all that works well. But the big takeaway of this truck to me is the suspension. The suspension is just excellent. Hats off to the Ford engineers that put that together. The stereo, I've heard people complain about that it doesn't sound good. To me, it's fine. I may not have the most refined ears, but I think it is perfectly acceptable. Of course, it has Sirius XM, all that fantastic audio equipment, and the B&O stereo to me sounds fine. I have no problem with it. Technology-wise, it has the Bliss system, the blind spot early warning system, backup cameras, sensors in the front and the back, so it has your lane departure warning system. All that stuff you've come to expect from newer, higher trim level Fords, and it's even trickling down to lower trim level on 2020 Super Duty. I think all that stuff is standard on an XLT now. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of those systems just because I think it tends to make drivers lazy and more complacent, and I think that could lead to issues, especially when driving through the mountains in Kentucky. We saw some snow. Snow blocks those front sensors, and then your early collision avoidance system doesn't work. Well, if you've gotten lazy, decide to put it on cruise control and just let that thing roll up towards the rear end of a semi, and those sensors are blocked, it's not going to stop you like you're expecting it to, and you can get yourself in trouble. So definitely do not rely on those systems in your normal everyday driving. It's a nice supplement, I suppose. But another major feature that I really like on this truck, and I'm guessing you have to pick the Lariat package to get it, this thing has really, really good headlights. They are LED, of course, as all the newer ones are going, but they are insanely bright, and some of the best headlights I've seen in a Ford. They're really good. If you have trouble seeing at night, you won't with these things. They are really, really good. As far as the four-wheel drive system, as you can see, this is not like a challenging trail or anything, but I think it works pretty well. You can definitely feel that the locker in the rear is getting plenty of grip and is digging around looking for it. As far as the four-wheel drive system goes, we're definitely not taxing it on this little trail. It's fairly well graded, and we didn't get a chance to do any serious off-roading. A little bit of snow, but nothing that really taxed this truck at all. You can feel the rear locker working, and I would say that the four-wheel drive works pretty well. Actually, here's some soft sand, so let's just try that out. Looks like something fun to play in. Yeah, I'd say it works pretty well. Yeah, that's not too bad. So don't get on to me about that, because that was already established, and I consider that part of the established trail, and I've seen cops use it too. But yeah, four-wheel drive system works pretty well. I'm not a huge fan of the tires that come on this. I would have preferred, it comes with like Kumhos, I believe. I would have preferred Nittos or BFGs or something like that. These tires are a little clunky when it's cold. You can actually feel the tread pattern on the tires, but they seem to work pretty well. But I would replace them if they were mine. I would definitely go with a set of Nittos like we've covered on our F350 Super Duty. You can get them from Discount Tire Direct, and they are fantastic. Other things I would do to this truck, first thing, I would have to have a tune. There's a ton of different tuners to pick from. We used Livernois on our previous 2.3 liter Mustang. It worked great. And then we also have a lot of different options with HP tuners or SCT. So you just pick it. There's a lot of great tuners that can tune these trucks and pick up a lot of power. I mean, a lot of power. You would really be surprised by how much this 2.3 liter EcoBoost can put out. But I think that just about sums it up for just our little driving review. Would I buy this truck? Probably not. I would wait for the Bronco. But if you're in the market for a small truck or a daily driver, this thing would be perfectly acceptable. I just have a big truck already, so I don't need another truck. But an off-roady SUV, yeah, so Bronco would be up my alley. But yeah, I think it would make a fantastic daily driver, and if you don't have a big truck already to do your work, this is great for making runs to Home Depot. It can tow in the 7,000 pound range, so you could tow a Mustang to the track. I think it would be a fantastic small truck for city driving or out in the suburbs. So check it out. Don't believe everything you've seen about it, especially that it's harsh or crude or anything like that. I think it's actually a pretty good package, and with a little bit of tuning, it could be a really, really nice truck. Some tuning would take care of that 10R80 laziness in drive mode, and you wouldn't have to ride around in sport mode all the time, even though sport mode's a lot of fun. But I think that just about covers pretty much everything I have to say in our little driving portion. I'm going to take you guys for a tour underneath the truck and some of the features and some of the stuff I think that's kind of surprising that made it onto this truck versus a lot of other new Fords. So look for that a little bit later in the week, and until then, head over to svtperformance.com to check out our full review with a lot of pictures and other information on this truck and everything Ford Performance related. That's the way to keep up on all the latest news, reviews, and information on your favorite Ford Performance vehicles.